Hello and welcome back to my channel. I feel a bit nervous about recording this video for the whole world to see, but I'm doing it for a few reasons. One, I want to document my journey, and I want to document my journey in a way that can empower all of you and be really honest with you about how I've got to where I am now. And two, as a sense of healing and a powerful way to say goodbye to this last decade. So this video is for me to talk to you about what my 20s have taught me, and going into my 30s and into a new decade really does actually represent so much for me. And it represents saying goodbye to the person that I used to be, and it represents saying goodbye to all of the struggle and all of the hardships and the pain and the anxiety and the insecurities, and saying hello to the person that I am now and welcoming that person into my future and into the rest of my life. So this video is slightly different to what I would usually talk about, and it's not so much about entrepreneurship or mindset, but so much everything. It will talk about those things, but it will also talk about my journey, who I am and how I've got here. And I think it's really important for me to do this because so many of you will look at me and think I'm super happy, I have an amazing positive energy and everything's amazing, but that isn't always the person that I have been, and it isn't always the emotion that I have felt. I want to give you a few key things that my 20s have taught me, and I really hope, if nothing else, this video allows you to connect and learn more about me and my story, to know that you can trust me with your struggles and your insecurities, and to know that you're not alone, and also to feel comforted with the fact that no matter where you have started, you can still create an abundant, amazing, fantastic future for yourself, and there will never ever be a reason that that can't happen for you. So my name is Sam, and I want to talk a little bit to you about my journey. I started my journey a long time ago when I was in my mid-teens. I was 14 and my dad passed away suddenly. He had gallstones. He went into hospital for a routine operation and he didn't come home. He spent 3 weeks in hospital, contracted an infection, caught pneumonia and died. So I went into year 10, which in the UK is the start of GCSEs, and I had just turned 14 in the June and he passed away in the August. And I had realised just how brutal this world could be, and just how difficult things could become. So I would say at the time of being that age, I felt nothing but just pure heartache and pain. And only when I left school did I really start to see the impact that this had had on me and the impact that it had had on the person that I would then become. So I went to university at 18, I left school, left college, and I went to university and I started my new journey. And this is when I realised just how insecure I felt. Making new friends, meeting new people was really hard. Not in the sense that I found it difficult, you would never have known that from the surface, but I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be accepted, I wanted to be loved, and I wanted to be part of everyone's community. And I wanted to be part of everyone's group. I wanted to fit in with everyone. And this is the first thing that I would say I learned in my 20s. You can't please everyone. And the more you try, the more you become disappointed, burnt out, and unhappy. This was the first lesson, because I tried so hard to please everyone and I did burn out. I ended up with kidney infections all the time. I was hospitalised due to my kidney infections, and I started to struggle really severely with IBS. So my anxiety and insecurities had now manifested in really physical symptoms and physical struggles, and I really did struggle physically. I felt run down a lot of the time. I felt burnt out. I was always tired. I just couldn't get my energy back. And the kidney infections were really painful, to the point that I ended up with structural damage in one of my kidneys in my early 20s because the infection was so bad I couldn't even put my knickers on in the morning. I couldn't bend over, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't sit up, and I ended up in A&E on a drip. Trying to please everyone didn't work out for me, and trying to fit in with everybody and do everything didn't leave me feeling fulfilled and happy. And that's the first thing in my early 20s that I started to learn. The second thing I learned was being in a relationship isn't always the best thing. And I think obviously losing my dad and missing out on that father figure, I always wanted and felt like I needed to have a boyfriend. I couldn't be on my own. I needed to be loved. And that meant sometimes I picked some very bad boyfriends that weren't right for me. And if any of my friends or family are watching this, you will also be able to appreciate this. But I think it taught me a lot about myself. I was settling for people that had lower standards and expectations than I was happy with. I was accepting behaviours that I would not accept now, and I was becoming a person that I didn't even recognise, and that's not the person that I wanted to become. So the second lesson that I learned was sometimes being in a relationship isn't always the best thing, and choosing someone based on how you currently feel about yourself and the self-worth that you have means that the person you choose will be less than you deserve. And the third lesson I learned was being emotional is not a bad thing. I started my first job. I graduated with a first from university after 4 years of studying, and I started my first teaching job, and anxiety and unhappiness were huge. I would cry quite frequently, and I realised that I was worried about seeming emotional. I was worried about seeming unprofessional, and it meant that I started to pretend I was okay all the time, even though I wasn't. So the third lesson that I learned in my 20s was being emotional is not a bad thing, and being emotional is not something that you should shy away from, because it makes you who you are. And now it's part of who I am, and it's taught me a lot about the person that I want to become. And when I watch this video back in another 10 years, I'm sure that I will look at me now and think that person is so unrecognisable. I definitely think, reflecting back over this past decade, I almost can't believe that was who I was, and I can't believe that that is the person that I was. So that's the third lesson. Being emotional is not a bad thing, and showing your emotions should never ever be seen as a weakness. The next thing I learned in my 20s is when you do find someone that loves you, they won't always leave. And again, I think it's really important that I share this journey with you, because I want the world to see this. I want you to know who I am, and I want you to know where I've come from, and I want you to know that I'm a normal person too. And so when I met Luke, I was really insecure. I was anxious all the time, and I worried that he would leave me too, because by this point my mum had moved to Jamaica, my twin brother had moved to Scotland, and of course my dad had passed away. So my fear of abandonment and rejection was now massive. So I wasn't very nice to him. I would stalk his social media to see whose photos he liked, who he was following and what he was doing. I would constantly question him about what he got up to, and if he was faithful to me, and if he did the right things. And it put a real strain on our relationship, because he had never been with someone like me, but I had never been with someone that I loved as much as him. So I learned in my 20s, we got married when I was 25, so, which now I look back and think, oh my gosh, I was so young, but I know why it was important for me, because he became home for me, and he became my sense of security, but in a very different way to my boyfriends before. It was mutual, and I did trust him. But this lesson, of course, as you can tell, has made me a bit emotional, because it is probably the most powerful one I've learned. That when you find people that do love you, they don't have to be your family, but not everyone will leave you. And I really want you to know that. Not everyone will leave you. And I always talk about this statement, but the right people will give you the right support. And even to take that one step further, my YouTube manager is Luke's brother, George. So I know that he will be watching this video, and I know that he will be editing this video, and I know that he will be thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember when Sam was like this, and I remember when things weren't what they are now, and what a journey it's been. And when I think about it now, and I think about the right people giving you the right support, the fact that he now is my YouTube manager, managing my whole YouTube account, all of my uploads, scheduling my videos, my edits, there are people in your life that will love you unconditionally, that come into your life that aren't there at the beginning. And that's another lesson that I learned. As well as when someone loves you, they won't always leave you. Sometimes the people that love you the most weren't always there at the beginning, but they have the biggest impact on your life. So that is my fourth lesson. Sometimes the people that have the biggest impact come into your life when you just need them most, and they don't always have to have been there from the beginning. My next lesson for you is, I spent a lot of my mid to late 20s thinking that I should do what everyone else was doing, and thinking that I should follow stereotypical paths. Move house, get a bigger house, get married, change jobs, get a promotion, save, you know, all of these things, start a family. My next huge lesson was, don't think you have to do something because it's what society is doing. And don't fall into the trap of trying to fit in to the social norms if you aren't meant to be in them. So when I was 27, I decided to start my Instagram and start this crazy journey that I now call my business. And that's been another huge lesson for me. Don't ever stop yourself. Please don't ever stop yourself from doing something that you feel called to do, because it doesn't fit in with society, and it doesn't fit in with social norms or stereotypes. The next lesson that I've learned is to always celebrate yourself. And as you can tell, I am a bit emotional because I do feel like a completely different person. And going into my 30s is really, really poignant for me, because I feel like I can say goodbye to so much of this struggle and so many of these hard times, and who I'm becoming, I can now fully embrace. So the next lesson that I have for you is celebrate yourself all the time. Celebrate everything about yourself. If all you do today is get dressed and go for a walk, celebrate that. If today you have taken a step forward in your journey to trusting someone, celebrate that. If today you have made £10,000, celebrate that. If you signed a new client, celebrate that. Do not ever stop celebrating yourself, because I definitely didn't, and it led me to a place of almost punishing myself, thinking I was never good enough. There was always something else to be doing. There was always something else to be achieving. And only now do I stop and think, do you know what? I have done amazing things and I'm so proud of myself. And I love who I am now. So always, always celebrate yourself. And my final lesson for you is, you are braver than you think you are. So to be recording this video now, of course it's in a safe space. I'm in my home, I'm in my office, but I know that when I send this to George, the world can see this. Thousands of people, millions of people can see this video. And what I want more than anything is, if you are watching this video, I want you to share this with your loved ones for a few reasons. 1, to show them what's possible. 2, to allow them to feel comforted through any struggles they're facing and how they can get through it. And 3, because I have put my heart and soul on the line, and I would love to know and find out from you who you are, where you're watching, and if this has touched your heart. Because being brave and taking risks is now a part of who I am. And that is my biggest lesson. Be brave, because you never know who you will impact. You never know the difference that you will create for someone. And you just never know how magical your journey will become. So be brave. And I just want to leave you with this final thought. And again, this is as much for me as it is for you. You can always start again. You can always start fresh, and you can always start carving out who you want to be and carving out the life that you want to live. So when I think about who I am now, and I think about the fact that I'm a multiple six-figure business owner, I have a best-selling book, a podcast, a YouTube channel, social media influencer, clients all around the world, running global events, I cannot fathom how much my life has changed. And it's all because I dared to be brave. And even though this video is about my story is a huge part of who I am. And I'm proud of every single part of it, and I wouldn't change it. But I'm so glad that I can finally let that go. And I'm so glad that I can start fresh with who I want to be, who I want to become, and the businesswoman that I can now embrace. So thank you so much for sharing this experience with me, being part of my journey, and for sharing my 20s and the lessons that I want to give to all of you. I would absolutely love to hear from you on this video, and again, share this with anyone that you know needs this message, needs this honesty, needs this journey, and needs that person that is willing to connect with them and support them. And finally, if you have listened to this and you have been impacted and resonate with any of this, I am actually going to leave you a code to my Anxious to Awareness course, which gives you my heart and soul inner course in modules and videos about how I was able to overcome and combat my anxieties and change my life. And there's bonus materials in there, workbooks, resources, printouts, videos. And I'm going to give you a code, which is SAM30, so that you can actually get $30 off and enjoy this course and enjoy a slice of me and a slice of my heart and my journey to help you on yours. I love you to bits, and I absolutely cannot wait to hear from you on this episode.